first, thank you for coming on to the show. I'm super excited to talk to you. You're all the way out in Morocco, so that's so amazing. How do you feel right now? How do you feel today? You know, here on the East Coast, at least in Jersey, we had like a tornado. And so there are trees broken everywhere. A lot of people are without power. So I'm really like grateful just to be able to talk to you right now because it's like the world is upside down. But what's going on in Morocco? How's your life right now?
I mean, honestly, like it's so peaceful.
Nice.
I don't really have, I mean, it's just so peaceful. But if I said that I was able to block out everything that was happening at home, I'd be lying. Like, I feel like I had done it really well. And today I woke up, I had a terrible dream, and I woke up with the weight on
your
of
shoulders.
It, you know? Yeah, like I felt it heavy. And I hadn't really cried, about any of this stuff because I feel like the work I'm doing is so forward moving that it's more exciting to me,
Right.
So I've been in that kind of spirit and that kind of energy. And then, but I'm watching, obviously, like it's home, it's my people, it's and it just, I think whatever was in the energy this morning, it kind of came down on me. And yeah, today has been a little hectic, but not for any particular reason. Ain't nothing different.
Right, I got you. It's just the energy. It's just so much going on. It's an international issue. So let's get into the work that you do because I'm really excited about what you do, what you've been doing. So TaNesha Barnes is the owner of TBarnes Beauty, which is a lifestyle brand, originally started offering organic skincare, healthy mineral cosmetics, and your signature soy candle. So it was a lifestyle, home goods, and cosmetic company to begin with. And then in 2015, you expanded into fashion design. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So you have been traveling all over the world to countries like Ghana, Morocco, Bali, Vietnam, experimenting with fabrications and international manufacturing. And you decided to launch into clothing design. And that's when TBarnes Global Travel Apparel was born, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so what I get from viewing your collection, I had the privilege of seeing your collection up close and personal when we collaborated on a fashion show.
It was wonderful, you guys.
Oh, it was so great. It was so great. And your work, your collection feels like international travel. It's the work of a woman who clearly has a high level of taste, who has a sophisticated palette, and your designs feels like, what a woman who travels, who's well-read, who's, achieved much is going to wear whether she is traveling at the time, whether she's laying back on the beach reading a book, whether she is in her garden, well, maybe not in the garden, but it's the type of clothing that you don't want to take off is the point, Your clothing just is timeless and the fabrics are rich and beautiful and luxurious. And so that's when I discovered you. So I knew you as a fashion designer. It took me a while to realize that fashion was not your original business, that you started as a lifestyle brand and moved into fashion design. So can you give us a little bit of a background? What I know of you is that you are from Connecticut, but is that where you were born and raised?
No, girl, I'm a Texan. Don't get it twisted.
Okay, so I do know that your Texas family owns a big plot of land, and you go there and spend time with them. So
yes,
I feel like I know.
Texans are very clear about this. We are Texans
now,
before anything. Okay.
Is it Houston? Are you from a city or no?
No, my parents are from Corpus Christi. Okay. But I was born in Austin. And I grew up in Austin until I was about 12, and then we started traveling all around the U.S. But yeah, I was born in Austin. I'm a Texas girl, though.
How did you wind up in Connecticut?
My dad was a part of that community of Black men that were absolutely brilliant and were the beneficiaries of affirmative action and got into these amazing roles as executives as Black men. And he worked initially for Texas Instrument and then for IBM. My dad retired as a CIO, a Chief Information Officer for global infrastructure for IBM. And I always laugh when I read things about affirmative action, because my dad was a part of these men, you know, that ended up all being CIOs and CFOs and some of the most powerful Black men in America through corporate America were extraordinary. You know, so the idea that, like, you know, Black people were coming to the table on some affirmative action and they were mediocre is hilarious to me. This was the best of the best. And so we traveled with his career. And that was another thing. Like, you know, a lot of white families got to kind of stay put and the men still grew in their careers. Black men had to kind of move around and travel. And the benefit of that is that we had a lot of Black families that we kind of all moved collectively. Okay. So I grew up with a lot of corporate Black families around, and we all ended up kind of, you know, first in the LA area, then in the New York area, and the Arizona area, kind of moved together.
So you've been around the country and you kind of settled for a bit in Connecticut.
Yes. I graduated high school. So I went to junior high in Connecticut. We left and went to Scottsdale, Arizona, and I came back and graduated. And then I left to go to NYU. And after NYU, I lived in Italy for 5 years. I worked for a designer. Her name is Gisu, and a brilliant, wonderful designer from Iran that had an amazing business in the middle of Florence. And that was the first time.
What were you designing? What was her brand?
I was not designing at that time. So at that time, I was, business minded, and she had a small boutique, but she was looking to expand. And so I started hosting trunk shows for her internationally. I would work in her store. It was really my first like bona fide job in Italy. And we had a lot of American customers. So it was an easy transition to work, you know, to be able to communicate in various languages and work with our customers. And yeah, so that was like my first introduction.
To the
but when I was little, I always loved design. I always loved clothes. I always loved
What did you study at NYU?
I study sociology. I'm a sociologist. I also have 2 master's degrees in history from 2 different universities. Yeah, I'm an academic at heart, but it's just one part of my life, academia.
Oh, you're definitely multi-dimensional. That's without a doubt.
Yeah, there's layers.
I know.
You know,
you are onion.
We got layers.
Yes. So, okay, so your first job out of college was in Italy, working for a boutique. And is that when you decided that you would put your education on the side as a sociologist, or was it psychologist? I'm sorry.
Sociologist.
You go into design?
No, I always kind of knew that college was an intellectual journey for me.
Okay. It was never about getting a job.
No, I never thought that I was going to be a sociologist. I was in school for sociology, working at Def Jam.
Working at Def Jam.
I worked in hip hop, you know, I was on tour. We were going, that was the best time, the 90s, you know.
I cannot wait to read your book. I know I keep saying that. I know you haven't started writing it yet, but you've lived a life.
Yeah, but all of it makes a lot of sense when I think about it, because, you know, even those Def Jam days, it was that time where, you know, design is something that is, you get there in increments. Because design is in so many aspects of our life. And my very first job was working for an artist and a company called Carol Joy Creations. And they were the first African-American greeting card company. And she was the painter. and she would paint these really beautiful cards. I'm one of the Valentine's Day cards. I still see it today. I'm like, oh, that's me. And, you know, but that's design, right? Like you're watching people take art, take creations, and make it into something that is a viable business.
Right.
And so I think I always had the combination in mind. I always knew that I wasn't just solely an artist ever. I was never, I was always a creative, and I don't even know if now I completely feel like an artist, but I definitely know I'm a creative.
Right.
But I've always had that balance between creativity and business.
So were you creative as a child? Do you remember like taking art classes, dance classes, all of that? Okay.
All my favorite. I did all of it. I was in theater. I did art. I still remember a teacher in elementary, and we did like Starry Night all over the classroom in paper mache. You know, like these are things that, yeah, they really impacted me. And but art, like everything is art. You know, like I live my life like life is art. I wanted to design my life like it was a piece of art.
My motto. That's my motto. My life is my art. You know, the way I cook my dinner to the way I serve my dinner, the way I get dressed in the morning, the way I pray at night, is all my art. So absolutely,
exactly.
I'm with you on that. And of course, you're Leo, and I've never ever met a Leo that was not naturally creative. So I think that has something to do with it as well. So you launched your line, and I mean, I know that, you know, it wasn't just you launching this collection, but you actually have a space for it, right? You have an atelier in Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
I have a small boutique in Connecticut that's attached to my skin studio. And it's in my home, like it's a private space, and people come.
It's been really
interesting. Yeah, and it was great because I was able to really see how people reacted to the things that I was designing. And initially, because I didn't come from fashion school, it was a journey. So I've experimented with like lots of different types of fabrications. You know, when I first came out, I was all knit jersey. I loved a heavy, nice, with a little bit of spandex, and everything I had was like these amazing travel pants. And because I was traveling, everything that I did was about travel. So being able to like switch up wardrobes and have things that were, you know, very easy to travel with. And
I mean, that's logical. That's logical because I feel like you are your own demographic. You know, you make clothing for women like yourself, women who are world travelers, and you need to be able to look amazing at the drop of a dime and yet be totally comfortable.
Exactly. And I love fabric. Fabric is like the thing. I'm actually, I think there might be a combination of not being solely trained on like, you know, I've learned patterns. I've learned, you know, some of these other tools of fashion making on the job, so to say, right? And working with really great manufacturers that showed me and that helped me along. And I've been really blessed with that because I didn't come from that background where I've learned how to start from beginning to end. So people have had to kind of take me through those steps, but I always knew what I wanted. I knew how I wanted it draped. I knew what kind of fabrics I wanted them to be and how I wanted them to fall. And so I've had a lot of people really help me along the more technical part of the journey. But fabrics, rich fabrics, I hate when things look cheap. And, you know, and when I was in Europe, one thing I learned, and you learn a lot of things moving around and watch people, is that they don't have a lot of clothes, right? And so the few clothes that they have are very high quality. And so you may only have 7-10 outfits, but those are so high quality that when you wear them the way that falls on your body, like, you know, and I've always kind of been a snob. Like I was never a 21. Even when I was young, girl, like I remember my first job. I thought it was fly. I was almost done with school. So like we didn't really have to go the whole day. So I had a full-time job at Learners. Remember Learners?
Oh yeah. That was my spot.
I had the line haircut, child. Like me and my girls used to go and get our hair done every week. And I was making $350 a week. I'll never forget this. And
as a teenager, you're rich at $350 a week.
What?
Yeah.
fly to death.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All we did was buy clothes. But even then, my girls used to be like, "You dress like an old woman," and I used to be like, "No, I dress like a woman."
I dress like a grown woman. Okay.
But it's because I knew what looked cheap. I knew
Right.
I was, I
You knew
never, and I
luxury at
knew
a young age.
young.
Yeah.
And now that translated into kind of when I do clothes, like I'm not really into fashion in the sense that a lot of different types of shapes and things like that. I know the shapes I like, and they're
Block
typically,
out those.
very flowy, things that drape a woman's body in a particular way, where if you're small or an XXL, it doesn't matter. You can kind of wear, my clothes fit like that. Any size can wear them. And, but I like the fabric. Like I tell people I'm rolling around this desert in silk every day. Like right now I have on a black silk dress. Like I love my sleeves, like the way my sleeves stop is very important to me. So those are like the small details of simple cut.
Right, right. Beautiful, beautiful. So since 2015, we're now at 2020. Your collection now is 5 years into the making. What has changed from your first collection to where you are now? Because I know that you transitioned career-wise into bigger and better things that we are going to get to in a moment. But as far as being an apparel designer, over the last 5 years, have there been things that you are not bringing back, or things that have become staples besides, I know, very beautiful silks and luxurious fabrics, but have you expanded maybe into menswear? Are there certain things that have evolved over the last 5 years in your collection?
Have not expanded into menswear. I'm not as interested in men's. I love dressing men, but I don't know that I want to design necessarily for men. But everything has changed. So I went from these fabrics that were, I did a lot of black, like black was like my thing, into prints and patterns. And I started out transitioning from like black jersey to then pattern jersey. And I'm also a person, when too many people are doing the same thing, then I'm off that.
Get over it, yeah.
I'm off that. Like, okay. But I did some dope dresses like that, like some great wrap dresses and prints. And a lot of people are doing that and doing it well, right? And so I then started going a lot to Asia, and I fell in love with silk. And then when I realized that you can take 25 dresses of silk dresses in a suitcase, and it will still only weigh 20
They fold down so nicely. It's like paper.
Nice.
It's like paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, and I was like, and it flows. So like I started to I found this silk in Vietnam that I fell in love with because it's also washable. And silk used to be this thing that was out of touch, right? Yeah, like you had to do all, and I don't have time for that when I'm traveling. So now that this new silk came on the market, I was like, oh, I can wash this in the wash machine, and it flows, and it feels so good, and it's light. And so I started doing just a line of short dresses, which was new for me because I like them long and flowy, and
very
and that was. Yeah, that was interesting. I love the kimonos. I do a lot of kimonos. But now I think most of my stuff is really oriented towards really simply cut, beautiful silk dresses and patterns and solids, and a lot of really great kimonos. And I roll around the world like that. So like it's like easy to promote it.
Works because you are your demographic. Exactly.
People stop me in the airport. Where did you get that? Well, here you go.
My car.
So yeah, I think that I feel like I needed to experiment, and I did, and I allowed myself to experiment. I allowed myself to do things and fail. Like I did a cotton line in Bali of like some of the pictures I think that you used on the advertisements, and I liked them. I'm like, okay, these are t-shirt kind of like the button down dresses, and I realized like, oh, I like this, and I was attracted to this fabric, but this is not really me, right? And I allowed myself to kind of experiment with different shapes that I've liked, and then
possibly know what you like if you don't try what you don't like. So that
you don't know. Yeah. You don't know, but I've landed in this place that works for me. You know, and the funny thing is your work, like you have to want to do it. You know, like I manufacture in Asia. I gotta want to go to the countries that I'm manufacturing in. I have to want, you know, so it's a combination for me of like, I know I'm already going, so I might as well just get my line right and then get it manufactured while I'm there. So I've incorporated my design I probably pick countries that I like based on the fabrics that they have. And then, because I tried with Ankara for a while in Ghana, and I just don't like Ankara because it doesn't flow. You know, it doesn't move. Ankara is best custom.
Got it.
You know, if you're going to wear that on your body, it needs to be built for your body.
Right, tailored for your body.
Yeah, it's a tailored fabric. And to me, that's a custom, that's not a you know, rack type product. So I think I've landed.
Right.
I bet you know, girl, things change. I could change next year. I could be like, I found this other material.
I'm done with silk. Well, let me ask you, because, you know, as being your friend for so long now, I've been able to feel like I've been to Thailand. You know what I mean? I remember when you were like going live daily when you were in Thailand. You know what I mean? So I wonder, do you travel because you love traveling, or are you traveling for work and the love for it just kind of is like the cherry on top? Are you traveling for work, or are you traveling for pleasure?
I do everything for pleasure.
You are so hedonistic, I swear to God. Even though we ain't doing it.
I build my life around pleasure. I don't have a business I don't like to do. You know, I don't have work I don't like to do. And so I build my life around the pleasure, and I like work because of it, you know. So I travel because I love experiencing different people and going around the world. And
so are you going to suppliers? Are you there looking for trends?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Girl, I don't waste no time and no money. Okay.
I hear that.
So
there's always going to be a business expense, so you can write it off.
Well, all of those things. I'm hoping you know, like maybe there's going to be some man. I can hear his voice right now in my head that he's going to be like, no, this is actually going to be a vacation. I can hear that coming out of his mouth. But yeah, but most of the time it's work and pleasure. You know, I like what I do, and I like where I go, and I, you know, have as many massages as I do meetings.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
Yeah. So I built a life that I like, and I do my work as I travel, and that's really it. Like I've talked to a lot of my manufacturers that I work with, 2 manufacturers, both of them are women, strong women. And in Vietnam in particular, the Vietnamese women are very much like Black American women. You know, they kind of run.
You've seen that before.
Yeah, I like them. Like the woman that I work with there, she runs her family. Her husband is a teacher. He kind of takes care of the kids while she makes her money. She makes sure her family is straight. She just built a new house. Her business is run. And you know, for me, my politics also drive my work. So I needed to see that you don't have children working. You know, I needed to see
no child labor. Right.
I needed to know all of that. And with fashion, especially when you start manufacturing, you don't know sometimes. Like people get a lot of heat, but once you send that out, you may not always know. So I work with people that are pretty accessible and small still, but she's grown tremendously since we started working together just on her own right. And but I love it because I'm working with a woman, I'm working with a strong woman, I'm working with a woman that I can see how as we grow together, her business grows. I know who's making my clothes, you know, and I know what they're paid, and she pays well. Like I know their livable wages. So those kind of things, my politics, you know, it can be burdensome with business, right? Because sometimes business can go against your politics, but I found a way to make it to where mine does not, and I feel good about that, and I feel good about the stuff that I make. Yeah.
Amazing. And then, you know, I was listening to you earlier saying how you got to travel the United States because of your dad's work. Now your daughter gets to travel with you because of your work. So that's amazing. So now I can't wait to see what Solana, correct? Solana, am I saying her name correctly? Solana,
yes,
where she takes it, because that's brilliant.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. She's a special kid and she's artistic as well. She plays a lot of instruments. She's artistic in a very different way than me. But
My
she
daughter too.
draws. Yeah, and she likes her little fashion stuff. And I'm seeing like, wait a minute, like I always thought my kid is like skinny and lanky and long arms and she's gonna be tall. And I'm like, oh, we don't have to share. 'Cause that I don't like. I don't like sharing. And then all of a sudden she's walking around in my shoes. And then she finds ways to take my shirts, which are like, baby, I wear 14. Like, what? I wear 16. Like, how are you you wear a 0? She will take a shirt and belt it and make it into a dress. And like, I was like, I thought I had escaped by showing a picture of the differences in our bodies that she would not be able to wear my stuff. It has not turned out that way.
Forget about it. No, absolutely. So please let me know, how did you transition into creating these spaces? For what I have observed, correct me obviously if I'm wrong, the first space was, I think, in Bali, or no?
No, so the first space property that I a part of my business. So Bali, yes, I take people to Bali every year, but I don't have a personal TBarnes space there.
Okay.
I have hotel partners in Bali, and they're amazing and they're wonderful, and we put together great trips. But my first space was Barbados. A girlfriend of mine inherited a home in Barbados, and it's a neighborhood home. Like space grew out. So space is a project. It's called Space by TBarnes. It was a project that a lot of people really wanted to travel, and they couldn't afford my TBarnes global trips, and I wanted to find a way to make trips accessible, because I believe everybody can travel. I think that if you want to, you can, and it's a way of finding the opportunities. And so I wanted to create spaces, where they could do that. And so for $500 a week, you could go to this 3-bedroom house in Barbados. It's in a real neighborhood. This is like a bungalow. Her grandmama owned it. I walked in, girl had all the curtains and the velvet furniture and
So this is
all
not
of that
living
stuff.
on a resort. This is real life. This is, you get to have neighbors and experience life as you would if you lived in Barbados, but in a beautiful home.
Absolutely. And then it allowed me to flex those home decorating skills that I really loved, and design.
You're very good at it. The space is gorgeous.
Yeah. I'm really I really enjoyed it. And it's a simple home, very simple. And I always tell people, like, this is not the luxury spots. This is not a villa. And we're still redoing stuff. We redid the bathroom. We need to redo the kitchen. But it's a cute little bungalow. And so that was like the first step. And then I just did brought on a home in Ghana, 5-bedroom, much larger, on an estate. Yeah, and that was amazing, because then I started bringing in artists. And so now, under the TBarnes Global Travel on the website, we have a global marketplace, and all of the art that you see at space properties or any TBarnes property, you also can buy the art that you see on the walls. So it's really trying to, build a bridge between the artist and the people that are experiencing living in art. Because what is life without that?
No, it's not. You're not living.
You're not. Like, when you don't have art in a place, when you don't have, a photograph or a painting or a wall hanging, or there's no soul to that place.
Absolutely.
Yep. So I find that people fall in love with the soul of the place, and a lot of it is because of the art. And I wanted to give people an opportunity to be able to take pieces of those properties with them. And so space, and then now Spy Palace, which is like, I don't even know. I went from like a little bungalow in Barbados to like a estate in Ghana to a palace in Morocco.
Girl, you're gonna be selling us a piece of the moon soon, because
well, we might need to go to the moon. I don't know. I'm gonna keep that open.
I need to go somewhere. But please, I remember reading, I think, on your website that it was a chance encounter with Mr. Sabai, correct? That led to this experience.
Yes, Muhammad. So I was on a flight to Marrakesh in February 2020.
Okay.
I had
very recent.
Oh yeah. Like, this is how life works. When you live your life as art, amazing things happen. Right? Because you're always open. Exactly. And I think that you're just open to the experiences and you
That's
want to
true.
talk to people, like the people also become like, I'm always writing stories about people in my life because they're my characters. They're my like real life, art too. The way that they
Right.
move is very interesting to me. So I'm on the
Co-authors in your
plane.
book.
And we had just gotten back. I did a trip in December to Ghana, and then another group to Cape Verde in January, and then right back to back we did February in Morocco. So I had a small group, and I was on the plane, and I was by myself in this row, and then this man came back. I guess he was trying to go to the back to lay down, and they wouldn't let him. He had to come back to his seat, and we just smiled at each other and started talking. And joins up that he is from the Sahara and has all of these amazing properties around the Sahara. And I was like, oh, I said, well, I do travel and I have wonderful trips that I take, and I would love to, make sure that at some point I see them so that, I could expand my portfolio of properties that I work with. And he's like, absolutely. Let's figure out. And so we ended up talking the entire 10 hours. We didn't sleep.
Wow.
We didn't, and just really, like sometimes people are just, the universe sends you the right people at the right time. And he ended up flying to meet us for dinner in Marrakesh. So he was in Casablanca. We had dinner, and then he invited us to Ouarzazate in the Sahara for one of his Riyadh properties. And I said,
Now,
you're gonna come.
You've been to Morocco prior, correct?
Yeah, I've been bringing people to Morocco for about 6 or 7 years. So I'm in Morocco often. So Morocco is one of my territories. I have a full team on the ground here. So, it wasn't, I knew kind of like if this didn't work out or if he was crazy or something like that, I could always pull people in and be calling my boys up in the other parts of the desert, like, we need help.
Well, that's yes.
Yeah. I'm not too crazy, but I am open. Right. And we ended up we went to the Riyadh the very last day. We drove from the other part of the Sahara over to where he was. The Riyadh is beautiful, and he allowed me to kind of take over. Riyadh is in Morocco, so you have these places where they're just like really beautiful Moroccan style homes initially with several rooms. Okay. And they're just really beautiful small boutique type hotels. Okay. And so we went and I did this dinner party, and he let me take over. Like, I'm in the office, I'm printing out menus. And so, within a matter of time, and he really just loved, kind of what I was able to like redecorate and do and create. And he said, I have this palace and this palace. And, people say things, so you're like, okay, you have a palace. All right. And he's like, I'd love for you to come and see what you might be able to do with it, And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to do that. All right. And so we went back and Corona broke out, right? We had already made plans. I was supposed to be taking a group to Bali. That got canceled because of Corona. And I was like, well, I can still go. And this was right before things really broke. So we made a plan for me to come. And then when Corona got crazy, I was like, okay, I'm taking my baby. And this is probably going to be a better place to be. I'm in Hamid in the Sahara, and it has about 7,000 people population and a landmass massive,
Wow.
And, the spirit world talks to me all the time. And I finally have gotten to that comfortable place in myself where I listen and I'm not scared of it. And they said, this is where you need to go. And I got on a plane with my baby with a man I did not know and went to a palace 50 kilometers from Algeria. Here I am. And we rolled up.
It turned it out.
Girl. When I rolled up, it was like 2:00 in the morning. I said, oh, this is a palace.
A palace. Palace.
And it was beautiful. It was absolutely stunning.
Videos and all the posts. It's a dream. It's a dream.
It is beautiful. And he really, I think one of the things that I've realized about the continent is that there's so many resources here, and people have such beautiful things, and they need people like us that are creative and executors, that get projects done, that understand deadlines, that know how to deliver on what we say we're going to do.
Right.
And so these mergings, you can find a lot of amazing opportunities. So with the corona scare, for a week maybe we just kind of spent getting used to the fact that we were in a global pandemic, and now the world was shut down.
Has it affected Morocco at all?
Yeah, I mean, not so. Africa is literally one of the safest places to be outside the ocean.
No, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is the second least affected continent, and it's unfortunate that people have not properly presented Africa and the things that these governments did. They'll never give them the credit. But again, when the spirit world talked to me and said, this is a place to be. And I was watching what Africa was doing. When I was in January, when it broke out in China, and I was in Cape Verde in January, Rwanda was already putting out hand washing stations at every one of their public spaces. So I knew Africa was responding like, if this hits us, we're not going to be okay. So I saw that Africa was already responding, and the king here did an amazing job. I'm so happy to be under this kind of leadership, and we're still under, lockdown. Our lockdown doesn't end until the 10th. But we've literally had, out of 40 million people, 202 deaths. Wow. And in Hamid, and that's in the whole country. In Hamid, we haven't had one case of corona, and we haven't had one death. So this was definitely the right place to be. Yeah.
Oh, so proud of you and so happy for you that you guys are safe. So tell us how this has transformed into a space that you're welcoming artists, you're welcoming families, not just for visiting like the home in Barbados, but an opportunity to find refuge.
Yes. I think that this, when God sends you places, there's always a mission, and you just don't know on the front end what the mission is. So when I came in and I finally got my barriers together, like my head right, I was like, okay, I'm ready to start what I came here to do. And I started decorating. So that was the first step. And girl, centuries of stuff. Storage units filled with carpets and artifacts from all over Africa. And one thing about Morocco that is amazing, especially in the Sahara, is that
you had a gold mine.
It was the trading post of Africa. Right. So the ores, and this is where everyone in Africa brought things to then be shipped out to supply Europe and Asia and every other place in the world, right? So I'm literally going through, and I mean, when boxes upon boxes of just amazing gems. I was in heaven. So I didn't have the first part of this experience. I mean, for weeks I was uncovering, and there was storage unit after storage unit after storage unit. So I have now gone through every storage unit at this point, 3 months later, and have and I love it because he kind of indulges me in my fantasies of what I want for the palace, as I'm walking around in my silk. It's like the perfect thing for me. I'm walking around in my silk dresses, and, it's the palace, and I'm redecorating. And I said, I really think that this place needs to have some brighter color. And he goes, okay. And then the painters were here, and we've painted it all white. I'm like, who gets to do that? I don't know how this happens.
What color was it?
It was a very nice terracotta, but it was dark, and it made this already terracotta desert. It was just too dark. And I think that when we painted it, I made it like a off-white with some brown in it. It just lit this place up, and it gave it the museum feeling that I wanted. And there's lots of buildings. There's just one of them. So I painted this one. The new Kasbah and the bungalows were brand new, so I didn't need to really do much. I'm just going to put a bit more Moroccan touches there. I'm just started on the cottages, so there's like a whole little village of 11 cottages. This is just the land never ends. We have 2 farms. It's kind of insane.
The farms have animals on them?
They have animals. Well, we're doing, most of the farms are for
Dairy?
vegetables and dates. So a lot of like the date farming is here. But there are animals all over. There's a sheep right across the street. And so this is this part of the Sahara is just very authentic and beautiful. And the people here are, you know,
Really
it's
welcoming to
yeah,
Americans?
you know, yeah, you know, the thing is, Morocco is one of those countries that has been kind of welcoming the world for a while. It has a lot of
I was going to say they
systems.
get a lot of visitors anyway.
Yeah, tourism is their second number one what is it? Gross national product, GNP. And so yeah, so tourism. But I will say, now that I've been living here, the interesting part about the Sahara is that people are still very traditional, and so on the outside, they may not seem as friendly or warm. So like, it's not like Bali, where like people are in Bali are just the sweetest, most loving people. I've never met people like them, right?
Okay.
That is not the case here, but they are, when you get on the inside, and I think a lot of it has to do with Islam and the protection and covering. When you get on the inside, it's like we eat together. So yeah, I would say yes, the people here are very kind. I don't know that you would have that experience just simply coming as a visitor. I think people would be perfectly wonderful with you. They would take you on your tours, but not the warmth and the family that I think we've experienced on the inside.
Takes time to develop.
Yeah, I think so.
And
I think
that's more genuine anyway. You know what I mean? That's a lot more organic.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that. But so once Corona really hit, and I think just anybody in travel had to be like, okay, this has changed our life forever. How does this new industry look? And I think I was already in this space of creating, and so my imagination was popping, you know? And I saw that, like, I believe that the next phase of travel is going to be about long extended stays. And I think that travel is going, especially with Corona and people choosing to now have offices where people can work from home, and they're not really going to have office spaces, that people are going to change the way that they live globally. The global highway is not going to end, but people are going to be traveling in different ways. So that was the first phase of this. And then our country broke into an uprising. And that then started to transition, excuse me, like what I understood was happening and why I was here. You know, at that point, we had already decided that I would stay on as general manager and run this space and create a creative community. And initially it was like from the space of like artists and giving people that kind of refuge. And then when the uprising started, I realized, like, no, like God put me here because people are going to need a place to live.
A new place to live. Yes.
To live.
To live.
And to live in peace, to live in a community where they can create and add and I realized, like, that's what this was. Like, this whole time, I've just been bopping around in my little dresses, making things pretty. But when I really started to understand why I was here and creating a new business structure to support it, and understanding that I had the support from Muhammad to create what I needed, and as we started to both see what was happening in the US, and it really became more apparent that this was something different. And so Spy Palace is a intentional living. You know, I've created a team. We've been thinking about things, you know, we're talking about how we want to live, but no one's really creating it. Like, let's imagine it. And then I have
honestly, you are among the first that I know of. I feel like we all are trying. At least I know I'm living very intentionally in my four walls. You know, I'm creating the garden where I'm making sure that my family is getting fresh produce that is organic, and you know, I've been running my own business from home for years so that I can be the one taking my kids to school and picking them up, and at the PTA meetings, and being hands-on and not leaving the responsibility of raising my children to complete strangers. You know, I feel that as much as I am living intentionally and being very conscious of my choices, there's so much happening in the world that I have no control over. So many things that are happening right outside my door that I can't control. But what I can control is where my front door is. I can decide to go to a place where there is, I'm not going to say no racism, no white supremacy, but it is not the virus that it is here.
Yeah, like, and I'm glad you said that. Number one, I love the way you live. I watch it all, girl. I love when you make your little dinners and you post your little table settings, like all of it. I'm like, yes, yes, B. Smith Jr. Yes, do it, girl. I love, I love all of it. But I think that it's important to explore this idea that I find that a lot of people that make these statements around, I hear a lot, not you, but I hear a lot of people say, you know, racism exists everywhere.
Right.
And that actually is not the truth, right? Like, so anti-Blackness, which is a consequence of colonialism and a consequence of enslavement, does exist everywhere because we've internalized it. So even if you're in Africa, we have internalizations of that we're purging, that continent is purging now, right? So yes, that anti-Blackness, but racism is a very specific thing. That idea of like systemic racism combined with state-sanctioned terror, because that's what racism is. That's what racism in America
is. And that's what police brutality is. That's state-sanctioned terror, simple and plain.
Yeah. And that does not exist everywhere. A matter of fact, it exists very rarely in places, right? Like the majority of the world doesn't have that. And I like to make that clear.
We're so used to it here that we normalize it.
Oh, people think that that is like regular life,
this is life.
That you can't escape it. And I spend.
But that's lazy. That's lazy because they would have to actually do something to escape it, and they would rather not. They would rather not do anything but complain.
You know, I understand. Like, I've been criticized recently of exercising my privilege around this conversation of everyone should leave, right? And that the continent is here. And while I understand the privileges and the space that I hold, I know for a fact that enslaved people have made it to London. That people with no income have made it to Canada. That people on foot have made it to Mexico. So I know history. And so you can't tell me what Black people are capable of doing when they decide that they've had enough. The real privilege is in the idea that you're comfortable enough that you'll continue to sit in it, right? And I don't want to be judgmental about people's, I understand, I'm from Texas, girl. We have 185 acres of land. I understand feeling like we deserve this, you know? And we do. This is our home, and you don't have
just because you deserve it doesn't mean you're going to get it.
And I think that sometimes you choose peace, get yourself strong enough, and come back and take what's yours.
Come back, exactly. Yeah.
But to the living in peace, for the past 3 months, my body has slimmed down. I came here. I know my blood pressure is different. The way I used to feel tight in my shoulders doesn't exist. You know, like there are other ways to live. And in every country that you go to, it does not feel the same. So when people say that it's everywhere, no, like people are not living like they're living in the United States of America. And my goal is just, I know everyone won't come, but I want you to try to imagine it. And I'm not just going to say imagine it. I'm not going to just give you the rhetoric, right? I'm going to create real systems so that you can figure out if this is a path for you. Here's the hand. And, you know, here at SPY, you can live here for $24,000 a year. And I know most people in the United States of America are not living in a place, eating 3 meals a day, by a gourmet chef, and have housekeeping for $24,000 a year.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And that's an accessible space for a lot of people. It's not everybody, right? But it's accessible for a lot of people. But there's other things like, with business and being creative. And this is the wonderful part, you create clothes the same way you create life. And I'm in my head, I'm creating a new way of life for people. And another thing that we just started is distribution. So if you're thinking and people that are doing a lot of shipping and that have online businesses, or people looking to do online business so that they can be more global and fluid and maybe explore if there might be other places to be. I've set up a system to where now you can have your all of your products in a place where it is air conditioned and everything would be safe, and you'd be able to ship out for a quarter of the price that Amazon costs you to ship, so that you can be flexible, run your business, do your marketing, do that marketing at the pool at Spa Palace while we're sipping on cocktails, right? Like, and have that distribution center in the United States to be able to fulfill all of your orders, and you don't have to be there.
So it's like fulfillment by Amazon, but less expensive.
Exactly. So $500 to get your product on board, inventoried and stored, and then $150 a month if you have less than 25 products that you're shipping, and it goes up and up depending on how many pieces you ship a month. But to me, these are like, I only say it's not
solutions.
Yeah, it's solution oriented. It's like, I understand that I can't just provide you a pretty space. I have to provide you a pretty space that's also affordable. Right? Okay, that you can also have your family, that maybe there's other business opportunities, right? Or that you can create business for yourself there. So for me, it's like, I feel like I'm creating like the ultimate dress, right? Like the most beautiful dress ever. And there's all these different compartments and pieces to this dress with lots of different fabrics that, allow you to exist and breathe and be free. And that is the goal of SPY, is to create a community that isn't going to be perfect, guys. We're doing our best. We're doing everything on the front end. I have a team of these 4 amazing young people. They're all in their 20s, and we work every week on creating, principles for how we want to live. Thinking about what are the ways in which we can support people emotionally after COVID, emotionally after an uprising. What are the tools? What can we do for people that they feel good every day here? What are the things that we want to? Everything here is farm to table. Everything here is natural. You will, like my poor child, you went on a hunt to try to find processed food here. There's no snacks. If you want snacks, you better bring your snacks.
Have them shipped to you.
Yeah, that is the new, this is my new design. And it's kind of a combination of like all of what TBarnes stands for. The beauty products, the healthy living, the beautiful dresses, the beautiful spaces. It is a lifestyle of beauty in its true sense of the word. Because it's every part of your life. And so many people are pouring out, like the healthcare center here is not sufficient. So I've been working to let people know within my community that are doctors, I'm going to help. Girl, we have Black doctors from all over the United States signing up for a week here, a week there, a week here.
Look at that.
Can you imagine? Like one girl, she's an RN. She's going to be living here at SPY. She'll be there at the health center every day to be able to take people's blood pressure, to make sure that they have the things they need and facilitate the doctors coming. So I understand that this isn't just come be fancy in a pretty place.
Right.
This is like, how do you really live?
How can you live? How can you be sustainable? Yeah.
Right. So that's what we're doing over here in Morocco, in the Sahara.
Let me ask you a few small questions. I'm concerned about the people who are just like, I want to go, but I need more. I can go to the website and I can see what it's going to cost. I can determine that I can afford this, but I need some hand holding. I need to, I need someone to hold my hand every step of the way, from the time I write my resignation to my job, or if I'm going to keep my job and work remotely, but I've never even been out of the country, getting my passport. Like, are you providing some type of hand holding services for people who want to do it, but just feel like it's beyond their own personal scope because of their lack of experience?
I'm so glad you asked. So youngblackandglobal.org is a nonprofit that I run now with two of my girlfriends, Tiki and Kendra. So
Young, Black, and Global.
Young Black and Global. Mm-hmm.
Love it.
And it is an organization that will help you expatriate and take you through the process for raising money, because we want to help people that may not be able to afford to access this to be able to have some funds available to help them cross over. And we are providing a farm for people to work on. And for me, it's like it's right. So it's not just that you get a passport. It's not just that you get the visa. It's not just that you come. It's also that you have viable opportunities to sustain yourself and live. And so the farming is our way through a profit business with profit sharing, with the profit sharing formula.
Everything.
Is that the farm is right next door. So I'm not like running myself ragged and a crazy person. It's literally right next door. That farm, we will be working all together collectively, and everyone will be sharing in it. We're going to figure out what we would like to manufacture there. Right now, we're playing around with the idea of used olive oil, because olives grow here very well, and a lot of essential oils can grow here well. And flavors, rosemary, and all those kinds of things. So we're thinking of it as a collective effort to decide what we'll manufacture. But it also, Africa has a lot of new trade laws, and we're trying to this is about the real next step. And it may seem big to people, like it may seem, intangible, but I'm here, like this is real life, like it's touching me. This is happening.
Right.
And it's just happening here with me. It's happening. There's a lot of us out here.
I was going to say, there are a lot of us leaving. Yeah.
There's a lot of us leaving, and there's a lot of us that have been building these bridges for people, right? We've been doing this. We are talking with the government. We're making a way, right? So, and all over Africa, really, we are all over Africa as a hand to say, we're here and ready to take you over. And I think that when you think about returning to the continent, there's a lot of things. Like I always tell people, like, create a community within a community. If you take some of the pressure off of what you think Africa is and what it has to be for you, and think about it like the Chinese think about it, right? They go into a place, they create a community for themselves and things that are comfortable for them, and systems within their own communities that are comfortable for them. Their food is there. Like that's kind of the way. I think it's the first step. And then these are our brothers and sisters in a very meaningful way, in a bloodline way. And so as we grow together, it's going to take time for us to be able to merge and heal from some of these. I mean, these are century-long divisions that we have. And people have a lot of bad experiences. And I've been doing this work literally every day. I talk to 2 to 3 people that are looking to move, girl. It is every day. I cry happy tears from this because it's so beautiful. I have people from every age range. I talk to women that are in their 60s and people that are in their 20s and people that are in their 40s with full families. Like, it is a lot of us. And I think that we can do this. I know that people have tried it before. I know that they talk about, oh, well, it didn't work in Liberia. You know what? We've never been where we are now.
Right.
We've never had the resources that we had now.
Exactly. It's a whole different world.
It's a whole new world. And we're ready. And the resources are there, and people are welcoming us and helping us, and the Mohammeds of the world that are saying, okay, here you go. I have this. Here's what you can do and use this. And those opportunities are there, and they're real, and they're happening. This is just one of them that I hope people will decide this is a place that they think, I think TaNesha might be crazy enough to be able to pull this off, and really do this together. It's not just my responsibility to create a community that you want to live in. It's all of our
the community's responsibility. Yeah.
To figure out how we do this and to learn how to communicate. But one of the things that I am doing, and this is the last plug that I had, is a new series every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Central on my TBarnes Global Lifestyle Live on Instagram. It's called Working Towards Black. And it's a series where I'm going to be talking with Africans on the continent, Africans around the diaspora, and Africans of the diaspora, and starting to talk about these very hard subjects and experiences that we've had with each other, so that we can begin to talk about the things that have hurt us, the things that we've heard that's said about us on both ends. We have hurt, I mean, because I work as a bridge, I know the hurt on both ends. I know the Africans that have come to America and been teased about being African booty scratchers. And I know the Black Americans that have, you know, felt like Africans come to the US and act like they're not, that they're lazy. You know, like all of these things are things that are real and that have hurt us and that are said, but they're all created by the system of white supremacy. And we'd be very, very good to know that. And as we understand that and start to deconstruct it together, right, then we can start building up something really beautiful. So these conversations, working towards Black, because Black is a political identity. You know, it's beyond color. We've reclaimed this idea that we're beyond race as a political, as a social construction. We've claimed this as an identity because it's a unifier. And if we all work towards unifying ourselves and identifying ourselves under the cloak of Blackness as a political identity, it doesn't take anything from you. You don't gotta lose your traditions.
If anything, it connects you to people all over the entire planet.
Exactly.
Also
Black folks are everywhere. We're in every single part of this world.
Right.
And what I hope is that these conversations, because I'm sure they're happening. I know I'm not the only one. I just don't see them in my circles. So I hope that I can be that bridge to start some of these conversations for people that may not be seeing them happening. And you know, it's layered. You can't create a community and not have healthcare. You can't, you know, have healthcare and not have a place where people feel like the same standard of living that they're coming from has. You know, you can't drop people off in Africa without having conversations where people understand each other. So this is layered activism, and all of it matters. And it is, you know, like design. You every piece of a design, if you don't get the pattern right, the dress is funky. I don't care what kind of material you have.
Absolutely.
You know. So here we are designing a new world, and to me, it's like my ultimate design project, girl.
Absolutely. Now,
I'm excited.
Are you able to still run all your other businesses? Like, how are you juggling it all?
Girl, yes. I've been doing all that work for all those years to let my businesses flow.
Right.
I've always, this is not new to me, this global life. I've always positioned my businesses to be able to run, you know, without me. Capital is probably like, if anything is stopping my business, is not me being in Morocco, it's capital. And so fortunately, this work has asked, you know, can I help? Yes, you can.
Absolutely.
You know, people like us, and I try to tell, like, when you're politically outspoken, because if I was like the Nene Leakes, right, like people would promote me, I could be in every magazine because I'm talking whatever. It's not threatening, right? Like I don't threaten the corporate agenda. But when you're talking about liberation, when you're talking about, we don't get the press, we don't get the funding, we don't get those things. And so I depend on wonderful people like you that have these outlets to get the people to know, like, it's so important work that you do. And I don't tell you this enough, but I have, in my last 2 years, I really filtered the women that I saw that were really change makers and that were sincere and that had the heart and the leadership skills to lead people. And you are one of the very few people that made that list, because I see the passion behind the community. It's never ever just about you. We're Leos, but we all got our own stuff. We like our own flex. But I see the work that you do beyond you. You know, your center. I was so disappointed when you couldn't open it that day. It was, I mean, your heart was breaking. My heart was breaking. It was breaking. Yeah, but it's, you did it. And that's the point. And it's we use this work that we do to not just empower ourselves and make other people look pretty, but like this is bigger than that. And that's what art is. It's
Right.
bigger than
So
just being
much
fancy.
Right.
Yeah. And I appreciate you, girl. Thank you.
I appreciate you so very much. So you have no idea. I've already been telling my husband, my kids, when Jay graduates, she has 2 years left in high school. I said, we're out. We're out. I'm done. I'm over it, you know? So you providing the opportunity for Morocco to be something that we take very seriously is just, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. So can you tell the people where they can find you, where they can follow you, where they can support you?
Yes, I'm never good at this. Okay, let me get my social media handles right.
Okay.
All right, so you can find me on Instagram at TBarnes, TBarnes Global Lifestyle, which is like my personal musings. My businesses are at TBarnes Global Travel and at TBarnes Beauty. I do have a magazine launching in August called Free Black Woman. You can find that at, yes, I know, she's my fashion writer.
So excited.
But this magazine is so exciting because it is literally me pulling together those women that I told you. Like I watched people because I realized I had to find the people that were the real, right? And these are voices. This is a magazine that is not fluff, right? This is not people that don't have life experience writing these little anecdotes that, you know, don't mean anything.
Right.
This is deep, revolutionary. How do you get free? How do you use the tools in fashion, in travel, in food, or whatever it is you're doing to empower yourself towards freedom? Right. Yeah. So at Free Black Woman, it's on Instagram. And all of the websites, www.freeblackwomanmagazine.com, tbarnesbeauty.com, tbarnesglobaltravel.com, youngblackandglobal.org, where it's all flowing. It's all flowing.
Nice. Queen, thank you for your time. I know that you are on a totally different time schedule out there in the Sahara. So yes, for making time for us. Love you, and I pray you safe. Hugs to Solana.
Thank you. You too. Kiss that baby.
I will.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in.